Hi everyone. In this lesson, we're going to design a Hogwarts-themed keychain. So we'll start the idea phase of our design on paper. And since I'm recording my screen, I'm using Autodesk Sketchbook. It's a free program. You can use it if you like drawing on the computer, but I find paper is a lot easier just to get your ideas out there. So before we start drawing, I'm going to go to Google's image search and look for some reference material. So searching for platform 9 3/4, got some pictures of the way the 9 3/4 logo looks. So I think we'll use this as our design. Let's head to our paper and try and decide how we want to design this keychain. We could do a circle, just like the logo itself. There's our 9, very curly 9 there, 3, 4. And if we attach some kind of loop to it, we'll be able to use it as a keychain. That's pretty simple. But I think maybe we can make it more interesting if we make it the shape of a luggage tag. It's like a little rectangle, a bit at the top. It has the hole through it. And then we can put our 9 3/4 logo on there. Oop. Shouldn't have drawn this at an angle, should I? And we can loop something through here. That seems like an idea. Of course, you could even just make yourself some other completely unrelated shape. You could make your keychain into a star. And put your Harry Potter style design on here. Although that one doesn't really go with the theme. But your design is up to you. I think I'm going to pick this luggage tag, since I like how it looks the best. So now that I have an idea that I'm happy with, now it's actually time to go into Tinkercad and start putting together shapes. Let's take a look at our shape here. I'm going to move this off to the side so I can create a new one. Start from the home view, the work plane, which is what you'll see when you create a new design. Also remember, the first step when you create a new design in Tinkercad should be to click on the name and give it a name that makes sense. It'll start out with some nonsense words up here, and you will want to be able to figure out what your project is. First, let's start by creating the 9 3/4 logo itself. So to do that, I'm going over here to the basic shapes, and I'll need the text shape. So I'm just going to drag this text shape in here, and we'll click on the text box and change it to a 9. So if I take a look at this 9, to line these things up, I'm going to use the view cube here. I can rotate the view with my middle mouse button, but if I simply click on the top, I know I am viewing it straight from the top. And if I use the last button here, switch to flat view, I'll be able to see everything lined up perfectly flat. Let's use our fit view to selected to zoom into the 9. So this 9 looks pretty good, but from our reference, it's got these curls on it that we don't quite have with the font in Tinkercad. Let's see if either of these is better. Serif. I think the serif is better since it's got thinner shapes. So we'll go with this. Now we've got this 9, and we're going to need that extra little round bit at the end. So I'm going to grab a cylinder. It's much too large at first. And we're going to turn the sides all the way up so that it's nice and smooth. Then, if I move the cylinder over and I hold down Shift when I click on our corner handle, we can shrink the thing without stopping it from being a circle. You can see that I'm able to line this up very, very carefully. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Because I've clicked on Snap Grid down here and put it at 0.1 millimeters. By default, it's at 1 millimeter. So every time you move it, it will snap to the grid 1 millimeter at a time. This won't quite let me get it in the right spot. So if I change it to 0.1, I'll move 1/10 of a millimeter each step. You can also move a unit of measurement equal to the snap grid by touching the left, right, and up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. Now that I think this looks right, maybe the 9 can be a little bit thinner. This seems good. I feel like this is closer to what I want. So let's make 2 more numbers, and since I already changed the size of this one, I'll select it and I will copy and paste another one. Now if I hold down Shift while I drag the shape, I can also keep it moving in a straight line without going up or down, or I can go up or down without moving side to side. So I'm going to move this over, and then I grab the corner and shrink it so it's about half the size. We'll change this 9 into our 3. And holding down Shift, make sure that this positioned good. Now we're going to copy this one, paste it, and put it down below. Looks like both of these are a little too tall. So we'll make this one shorter, as well as this. We'll change this one to a 4. There we go. That looks better. To make sure these two are lined up, we will click outside of them and drag a box around to select the 2 numbers. And then I will click on the Align tool, and we'll line it up so that they are centered. Now we need a line between them, so I'll grab a box. Like everything, it comes in at a default 20 millimeters. So I'm going to take this box, and when I click on the handle, we should see, let's move our view over here so I can see it, the measurement. I'm going to make this 2 millimeters tall. Maybe 1 millimeter. That looks good. Now, I think we've got our logo. Let's take a look. I do want those round bits on the 3 also. So I'm going to copy and paste this. Move our circle over here. It's far too large, so I'm going to hold Shift and shrink it down until it's just going to cover up the ends of the 3. Let's copy and paste this one so that both of them are the same size. Nice. Now we'll change the color of all of our pieces by dragging a box around everything and changing the color to black. This won't affect printing, but will help to visualize the design. And we've got to make sure that our circles here are a part of our letters so they don't move accidentally to the wrong place. But since I've been looking at top view, I need to look around and make sure that all of my heights are correct. So let's right click and drag around. Ooh, look at that. Everything is at a different height. So we'll start by selecting our circle here and seeing how tall it is. 3.6. Let's make this 6. We'll start by making the thickest part of our design 6 millimeters tall. We're going to have to choose each one of these separately and change it to 6. Unfortunately, if I choose more than one thing and change the height to 6, only the tallest one will become 6. Everything else will stay relative to the tallest piece. The height measurement is easier to see when you look at it from the side, since it's this white box that is in the center of our object. If I click on it, I can click on our measurements and change the number. If I am looking at this from the top, you'll see that our up and down handle, which floats over the center of our object, will get in the way. This black dot is easy to accidentally click on. Throw your objects underneath the ground. The quick solution is to hit D on the keyboard for drop, and that will drop it on the floor. All right, now that our shapes are all the same height, I'm going to drag a box to select everything and group them together. Now we can't see the seams between our circles and our numbers, so everything looks like it was drawn that way. Perfect. So they're going to need a circle around them. We'll grab another cylinder, drop it right in the center here, and we'll turn up the sides. So I'd like it to be a smooth cylinder. And change it to white, just so that the designs covers look right. So looking at it from the top again, it needs clearly to be larger. So I'm going to hold shift and drag this out until it's bigger than all of my letters. Now from the side, we can click on our height handle here and change this to be 4. All right. Now with the circle at 4 and the letters or numbers at 6, they are sticking up out of the surface 2 millimeters, so they'll be easy to read. Let's use the Align tool, dragging a box to touch both of these things. Click on Align, and let's get them right in the center. Looks like we'll need to zoom out to see all of our handles. Now we've got it centered. Perfect. So now I want to make my tag shape, which is a rectangle with a little bit of an extra angle at the top there. I'm going to grab my box, and at this point, I want to make sure that I'm not making a keychain that is enormous or tiny. So I've decided it's going to be, let's click on our sides here, let's make it 40 millimeters wide by 50 millimeters tall, and we'll make the entire thing 3 millimeters thick so that it's a little bit less than the circle. So everything sticks up out of the surface. So let's grab everything and center them up again. All right, looks pretty good. We're going to need the top of our tag here. Now there's several ways that you can do it. I've decided to grab the polygon tool. If you drag in a polygon, you can see that it is a hexagon, 6 sides. but it does have options. You can go all the way down to being a triangle and all the way up to 12 sides where it's almost a circle. We're going to use 6 sides, and we're going to use the rotate tool to put one of the flat sides up. So when I put my mouse over the rotate handle, I can see a circle, and if I stay inside the circle, it's going to snap to these measurements. So I can move it exactly 90 degrees so that one side faces up. If I move outside the circle, I'll be able to move any number of degrees, and it's easy to accidentally make a shape not line up with anything else. So we'll go to 90 degrees. And now that it's in this direction, I know exactly how wide it needs to be. Since my box is 40, I'll make this 40 as well. Now we will take our hexagon and line it up with the top. Using my top view and my arrow keys, I can move it up and down, make sure that the corners line up at the top there. Then we can grab everything and use the align tool once more to just make sure everything is centered. Since this is part of the tag, I'm going to need to look at the height and change it to 3. Now we've got our tag shape. So I'm going to grab our hexagon and our box by just dragging over a box that touches the corner of both of them, and we'll group them together. All right, at this point, the only thing we're missing is a hole. So let's grab a box that's already set to be a hole, and we will make this a little bit smaller, and we'll decide that our hole is going to be 4 millimeters wide. That looks good. And I'd like to round the corners of this. So I'm going to use the radius tool on our box, crank that up. If we go all the way, it's going to become basically a sphere. So we just want to have some rounded corners on our box. Now this rounds every corner, which means that if I cut the hole out now, it's going to be smaller on that side. So I just want to use the rounded box shape to cut the hole. I'll grab my up and down handle and push it through the floor. So now the middle of the box will cut a straight hole out with round edges. Zoom out here so that I can grab everything, and we will group them all together. Just so we can see our colors, I'm going to select multicolor again. Now we can see that we've got our design, tag, and the hole. Looking good. Next, we're going to get this thing ready for printing. We're going to be taking our completed design and preparing it for 3D printing. So the first step is to double check that your design is working properly. Always right-click and drag your mouse around to look at it from all sides and make sure that there's no surprises. You haven't got anything hidden or not lined up the way you thought it was. Let's select our design now that we know that it's working, and we're going to click Export. We're going to download the selected shape just in case there's something hiding off of our screen. We're going to download it as an STL file. Now we're going to move over to our slicer program. We're going to take our STL, which is a file containing our 3D object, and turn it into a G-code, which is a file containing instructions that will tell the printer what to do. Here we are in Cura. When we are getting ready to slice our object, we want to make sure that our slicer is set for the printer that we want to use and the type of material that we're using. Click on open and let's grab our Hogwarts Express keychain. Once we have a file in here, we can see that just like Tinkercad, we've got our shape in the center of a grid. This grid represents the floor of the printer. The printer I have selected is pretty big. So we want to rotate our view around and make sure that nothing crazy is happening once again. The downward facing sides of our object are going to be highlighted in red. So we know that the only things facing downwards is the entire back side, which is resting on the platform. That's what we like. This design is going to print laying down flat since we don't have any details on the back. We won't have to worry about any kind of supports. All of our details, you can see, stick straight up from below. So let's check our settings. Quality, otherwise known as layer height, is actually how tall each layer is. Right now, it's set standard to 0.2 millimeters, which is fine. For this project, we could even go down to the low quality, which is only 0.28 millimeters. It's just slightly larger. This means that each one of our layers will be a little bit thicker and will get printed a little bit faster. And since we don't have any smooth curves to worry about, the layer height won't affect the look of our design at all. Briefly, we'll look at these settings here. We don't really want to change the size and thickness of our shell, which is our outer layers. I think that the basic quality settings will work. And our infill is going to be how much this thing is filled in. Since we're not making a tool, we don't really have to increase the infill to make it stronger. It's going to be strong enough as it is with 20%. Our printing temperature is determined by the type of material that we're using, so we don't want to change that. Lastly, we don't need to generate any support since we don't have any overhanging pieces. Our build plate adhesion here is set to brim, and that means, just like the brim of a hat, it's going to print a thing on the floor all the way around your object, which is going to have to be trimmed off after it's done. You might need a brim if you have only a small contact point sitting on the floor, but this, the entire object is lying flat. So we'll change it from brim to skirt. Skirt will just draw a line around and not touching your object. Skirt is really just there to make sure that the printer is printing plastic that is sticking to the floor before it starts printing your actual object. Now we'll slice. Before you save this slice to file, you should preview it. Double check to make sure that it looks like it's doing what we want. And we can see a representation of all the lines that the printer is going to print. If we scroll down here, we can go down through our layers just to make sure that nothing crazy is happening with the inside. Inside of our area, we're going to have this 20% infill, which are these lines that get printed inside, so that instead of a solid piece of plastic with a partially hollow part, that will be faster to print and take up less plastic. All right, looking good. We'll save this file. And now that we have G-code here, we're going to send this to our printer